There's hydrogen and helium, then lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon everywhere, nitrogen all through the air with oxygen so you can breathe, and fluorine for your pretty teeth, neon to light up the signs, sodium for salty times, magnesium.
Good morning. Welcome to science class. Those of you who are getting sick and tired of looking at bugs will be glad to know that this is the last week that we will be talking about insects. Or boo, depending on which one you like. All right, go ahead and take out your papers out. We're going to start today with page 47, right here. And we'll go through 48, 49, and 50. We're not going to talk a whole lot about what's on there. You can read that for yourself. But there are a few things in there I want to point out to you. There's also not going to be a whole lot of pictures or videos on on today's video, because there are some things that I want to talk to you about that if you go to a lot of schools, they won't teach you. And so it's hard to find stuff that you can use in videos like this that is right. Okay, we're going to start off by talking about, it's a title chapter up there, where insects live. Where do they live? And before we talk about that, let's ask this question. This is not one of your questions. This question I'm to ask is, how do insects know how to do the things they do? Last week we talked about insects that were dancing, insects that talked by sticking their antennae together. We talked about insects who migrated, who moved from one place to another. We've talked about insects that know how to build themselves little places to live where they can turn into big insects. But how do they know how to do all this? How do they know how to do all this? Well, yeah, this is kind of embarrassing, but we don't know. We don't know how they know. We have studied animals for a very long time, but this is still one of the questions that we cannot answer. And there's nothing wrong with that. Science is a search for truth. The more we learn about things, the more we understand them, but sometimes we run into questions that we cannot answer. And this is one of them. How do insects know how to do the things they do? It's not just insects, it's other animals. If you've ever seen a dog that gets wet, it shakes itself, right? To shake the water off, right? Well, how does it know how to do that? If you've ever seen the crabs, the land crabs, they come out usually on a night when there's a full moon, and they head toward the ocean. But how do they know how to do that? How do insects and other animals know how to do the things that they do in order to survive? Well, we can't ask them, so we don't know. Maybe someday we'll find out. Hey, maybe you'll grow up and find out one day. But it's a question we don't know. So it's the thing we have to study. Now, if you were good to go to another school, they would probably tell you that yes, this happens because animals have lived for millions and millions of years, and some of them figured out how to do it over this millions and millions of years. They're the ones who survived. They're the ones who had babies. The animals who didn't figure out how to do this, they died out. And so over millions of years, the animals who have figured out how to do it survived and had babies. And so it's just something that they learned along the way. Well, that's not true. Because like we talked about at the beginning of this year, the Earth hasn't been around for millions and millions of years. It's been around here for around between 6,000 and 10,000 years, according to the Bible, which we believe here at Orca Solida. So how do animals know what to do? Well, right now, the only answer we have is God tells them what to do. God tells them what to do. Now, we don't know. We believe that's the answer. God tells them what to do. We don't have a real answer yet. So that's that. I say we don't have a real answer. God tells them what to do is a perfectly real answer. Until we find another answer, that one will have to do. The Bible talks about how insects work and how they live. They talk about how birds and animals live, but it never really tells us why. So that's something that we have to figure out for ourselves. But we call this behavior, and here's our first word for today, instinct. Instinct. Instinct is the actions that an animal takes to help it to survive without thinking about it. Let me explain this. If I was to punch you, what would you do? Well, if I was to punch at you, you'd go and try to duck out of the way, right? Did you think about it? No, you got out of the way. Well, who taught you to do that? Well, nobody taught you. It's just something that you were born with. If you've ever played with a baby, if you hold your finger out to a baby, the baby will reach up and try to grab onto it. Well, why? Who told the baby how to do that? Nobody. It's just something that the baby already knew how to do. So we have instinct. We have instinct. Animals have instinct. Instinct is an action that an animal takes that is born knowing how to do that helps it survive. Let's take a look at some of these animals here. We see this animal here. This is a caddisworm. This is a caddisworm right here. But see all that stuff on top of it? That's sort of like its house. It built that house out of little rocks and pieces of dirt and stuff like that. It helps it to hide. These other rocks. It's hard for other animals to see it. It protects it. But how did it know how to do that? Well, it knew how to do that by instinct. Here is on page 48. It's called a burying beetle. It looks for a dead animal and sort of buries it, and then it lays its eggs near that animal. When the eggs hatch, the little babies come out and they go and eat that dead animal. Well, how did the burying beetle know how to do that? Well, it was instinct. Nobody taught it. It was just born knowing how to do that. Okay. Some animals, this poor guy here, see the burying beetle, he waited until this animal was dead. That was nice of him. Some animals feed off of other animals while they're still alive. Yes, some animals feed on other animals while they're still alive. Those are called parasites. A parasite is a plant or an animal that sticks itself onto another plant or another animal to feed off of it. Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are parasites. Who likes mosquitoes? Yeah, nobody likes mosquitoes. They come, they drink your blood, they spit on you, and that leaves that little bump that itches a lot. Yes, mosquitoes are parasites. They come and feed off of animals and people that are still alive. Fleas, pulgas, they're parasites. They drink the blood of animals that are still alive. This little sucker here is a louse. It's a louse or a lice. they get in your hair. They get in your hair, they lay eggs, they drink your blood. They're really, really hard to get rid of once you get them. They are called parasites. A parasite is a plant or an animal that sticks itself onto another plant or animal and feeds off of it. So the animal that sticks onto it is called a parasite. The animal that sticks on the mosquito, the flea, those are called parasites. What do you call the animal that it's stuck onto? Let's go with the mosquito. No, we'll go with the pulga, the flea. The flea sticks itself onto a dog. If the flea is a parasite, what is the dog? The dog is the host. The host. The host is the animal that the parasite feeds off of. The host is the animal that the parasite feeds off of. People get parasites, animals get parasites, and the people who get these parasites are called the host. When the mosquito comes and sticks onto you and drinks your blood, the mosquito is the parasite and you are the host. Okay? And some people get really grossed out by that. But the thing is that the animals that come and feed off you, they're not trying to kill you. Because if you die, then, well, they can't feed off you anymore, can they? No. They don't want to kill you. They just want to come and take a little bit off of you. Take a little bit of your blood, some of your hair to live in. Okay? They're nasty sometimes, they're gross, but most parasites, they're not there to hurt you. They're just there to feed off of you. They want to keep you alive, because if you're alive, then they can keep eating off of you. So nobody likes parasites. Nobody likes them. Dogs and cats, sometimes they get worms that live inside of them. Those are parasites. Okay? It's gross. Yes, it is gross. But we have things that we have to deal with these. We have medicines we can take to keep parasites off when they get inside of us. We have chemicals, químicas, that we can spray to get rid of them and kill them. Those are called insecticides. An insecticide is a chemical used to kill insects. Before I came here, I had a job killing insects. That was my job, killing insects and keeping them from getting into people's houses. I would spray stuff all the way around people's houses, and then I would go around the house and look for little holes, stuff that insects come in, and just put a little bit of dust, a little bit of polvo in those holes. It would kill the insects that were in there and keep more from wanting to come in. Okay, that's what they're called, insecticides. Okay, these are the different ways that we can use to kill parasites and other bugs that we don't like. Okay, so let's run through our terms again. We had instinct, which is an action that an animal takes to survive, that it's born knowing how to do. We had parasite, which is a plant or animal that feeds on another animal, plant or animal. We have host, which is the thing the parasite eats off of. And we have insecticide, which is a chemical used to kill insects. If you want to know more about these things, well, that's why I gave you these papers. You can read them yourself and learn about what's going on there. Okay, tomorrow we will talk about the sort of homes that some animals live in. We'll see you then.